Well, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching this in the world. And welcome to another rendition of Wrestle Watch, your WWE PLE review show here on the BC WrestlePod Network Conglomeration Syndicate. Thingamabob, we do almost every single day of the week except for Thursdays, but not during the summer because we got pay-per-view stuff on Thursdays now, which is crazy.
I love that except for Thursdays is in the title. We all
Except
these things
for
we do,
Thursdays.
except for Thursdays.
Because Thursdays is usually the day we don't do anything, but not this summer.
Man, it's crazy.
It really is. I am one of your Wrestle Watch hosts, Mikey, and joining me this evening, back from the dead, kind of, is, I don't know what I want to call you. What we lovingly call him on AEW, the no longer the bald fraud professor is back in the building.
Man, it has been a minute. Yeah, it's been between shows and life and other things, it's been crazy. And I'm teaching summer school, which is always a pain in the ass. But I really wish I had time to watch all the SmackDowns and Raws going up to this. I only caught like every other and bits and pieces of this. And I'd love your opinion on some of the storylines and how some of the stuff actually shook out in the end, because I don't know how I feel about some of these. I don't think it would have saved my picks, because my picks were still 2 out of 5, which is terrible.
You and Kilt both got 2 and 3, and it was because everyone got that free point with the Dominic and
that one we all knew. But like everyone on the internet went 5 for 5. Like everybody knew the answer, and I was like, "How am I the only one that wasn't?" Wait, what? So we'll talk about it.
Yeah, the only one I got wrong was men's Money in the Bank, but we'll talk about that one. But I mean, if you couldn't already tell, me and the professor here are here to review WWE's Money in the Bank, which took place this past Saturday. It says Los Angeles, but we were in Inglewood, y'all. Like, we were in the Inglewood area, but Los Angeles is just more glamorous. But not right now, because it's
up to no good.
It's up. Certain parts of Los Angeles are up to no good.
Man, heart goes out to LA in general. I got friends down there. I got people with family down there. Folks is worried. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course with everything that's going on to the world, like I texted my BC WrestlePod family earlier, it is slowly creeping its way currently to me. So we shall see how the rest of the week goes. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about people going up and down and falling off ladders and other things like that. But before we get into all the Money in the Bank madness, a little bit of housekeeping, if you will. If you are new to BC WrestlePod, hi, welcome. I'm glad it's your first time here and you stumbled upon our little channel. We, team of 10, possibly becoming a team of 11 here very, very soon. I'm like, it's like Pokemon. I'm collecting them all.
Hundreds of us. My goodness.
For reals. But I'm excited. More on that information when we get to the end where we talk about the remainder of the week. But we review all the weekly shows for the major feds and also we do all the pay-per-views for the major fed, as well as shows and pay-per-views for the international brands as well. We have New Japan, Stardom, we have Progress, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. We're now covering Canadian wrestling, comedy Canadian wrestling, and mystery wrestling. Like, it is wild out here. We do a little bit of everything, and we're slowly just adding more stuff to the calendar, which is crazy. But we know that time is a construct, and sometimes you cannot dedicate a whole hour and a half of a live video or even an edited video. So if you want to still be involved and be a part of the BC WrestlePod fandom, you can follow us all over the social medias, pretty much anywhere at BC WrestlePod. We're literally on almost every social media site. Look us up. We do the clips that pretty much summarize all the important parts for all of our reviews. We do report cards for the weekly shows and the pay-per-views. Shout out to Andrew for putting up our GCW report cards from this past weekend for Tournament of Survival and Cage of Survival.
Those, I didn't see all of it, but the Shotzi highlights were insane. I gotta go check that out.
I also recommend from Cage of Survival, Professor, the first bout, Slade versus Bear Bronson, was just gnarly. It was great.
Woof. All right, I gotta go. I have a little bit of time between playing Resident Evil and watching wrestling. I think that's gonna be the next few weeks of my life.
That is true. The real question though is which Resident Evil?
I bought Village a year ago and haven't been able to play it.
Yeah,
so I'm finally like 3 hours into a game I've been trying to play for 3.5 years. So I'm happy.
You know what? I wish I could experience that game for the first time again, but I'm
It's so
more
good.
power to you. I'm so
And luckily,
excited.
I'm so far behind. The spoilers, the spoilers aren't even a big deal anymore. So I really don't know what I'm walking into.
That
It's
is
kind of
very
nice.
true. But yeah, we do everything, report cards on the social medias as well as the clips. We also have some merchandise available if that is something that you would like to support us that way. We pretty much have review merch for all the review teams here at BC WrestlePod. We also dropped the Hot Boys Summer Collection, which is just a very, I guess, bear-y type of luchador in a swimming trunks and just buns out and just all sorts of like to a certain sun tanning lotion slash a sunscreen company that does something similar with it, which is great.
This is a tangent, and I have to tell you this. We have a lavender grad here at the college, so it was a big, LGBTQA graduation ceremony, and it was fantastic. And they said, "Can you name faculty of the LGBTQA mafia that you feel needs to be recognized?" And they voted on a bunch of faculty, and apparently, I was in like the top 4 or 5 as the cisgender hetero guy. Like,
You are the
wait,
ally.
what? And I'm like, oh, and they approached me about it, and I was like, oh, that's super sweet. I'm very hetero, but y'all are great. And they were just like, oh, really? Like it was adorable. So yeah, happy to be an ally. Go buy the bear stuff.
Yes. But more importantly, we also dropped our Pride 2025 collection, Grapple with
Which is
Pride.
super cute. I like it. Yeah.
It is really great. It is a luchador mask on the front with the Pride Progress flag colors, and on the back, it has a wrestling ring using said colors as well, with the slogan, love, Pride never taps out. So, which is fantastic, especially in these troubling times. And more importantly, a part of the proceeds of everything sold within that collection will be donated to the charity organization Point of Pride, which is a charity organization that provides financial assistance and help for trans health and gender affirming care as well. So again, parts of those proceeds will be donated to Point of Pride. So that is all I have to say in terms of the housekeeping. So now let's get into this, because being there live and then also having some time to reflect on the last 48 hours that was Money in the Bank, I had a great time, but I don't know if you agree with me on this, Professor. This was a very safe Money in the Bank. I feel like we didn't take too many risks in terms of who won and things like that. I felt like some things were kind of obvious, but we'll talk about that as we go through the matches.
Like I said, I agree with you, and that's why one of the things I wanted to ask you. So I'm glad you start with that. Not watching the last few Raws and SmackDowns going into it, not knowing any of the storylines. Okay, fine. The matches were still dangerous and violent, and there were some great spots in here. They didn't take any risks. There wasn't anything that was totally out of the box. There wasn't anything that it was a surprise. If you watch wrestling, it was kayfabe's surprise. There was only one big moment of the night, and you know what it is, and we'll talk about it, where it was like, oh my God, that's the curveball that we've been waiting for. And of course, nobody can stop talking about it. But some of the spots, some of the matches, men's and women's match for ladder Money in the Bank, were very hesitant at times, almost. Moments where like they were waiting for the spot or they were waiting for something to come. I should never be able to tell it's scripted. And they got heady in a few spots, which was tough. And I don't know if you got that impression watching it live or if it was totally different.
It was a little bit. And normally for the last 2 years that we've covered Money in the Bank, everybody knows who's been watching BC WrestlePod that we have always collectively preferred the women's Money in the Bank over the men's, because the men's ends up being like or just straight up doo-doo. Dare I say I enjoyed both, but I feel like the men's edged it out a little bit for me, a little bit in terms of like between the two. But I also had my problems with it, which we'll talk about. But let's just jump into it. So let's go into what kicked off Money in the Bank, which was the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So in this match, we had our 6 participants in Stephanie Vaquer, Alexa Bliss, Roxanne Perez, Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Julia. So on paper, when we did our predictions over the phone and everything, this was the match I was most excited about, because this is fresh face. We got a lot of newbies, first time evers in Money in the Bank. And we also have, some people who have, well, technically we only have 2 people who have been in multiple women's Money in the Bank ladder matches. Come to find out, this is Rhea Ripley's first Money in the Bank ladder match, which was wild for me. I was like,
yeah, that was shocking to hear. I had to go back and do the research on that. Yeah.
Which is crazy. But again, the prize is the women's Money in the Bank briefcase that has a championship match contract anytime, anywhere. The entrances were fire. It was great. Now, as far as the Money in the Bank ladder match itself it goes, I enjoyed myself. I love all 6 of these women, but I feel, and like you brought up, Professor, there was a lot of waiting around in this match, as well as the girls were having trouble setting up spots, and it took us a little bit towards the middle of the Money in the Bank ladder match to get those spots, because the beginning was all gas. The end was all gas, but the middle, we kind of slowed down a little bit. People were having trouble getting places, and also watching people bounce off ladders they shouldn't also made me worried a little bit.
Yeah, Juliana and Roxana should have won it like 5 times. Got all the way to
that
the
was
top.
The other thing. They kept going up there, and they kept getting brought down.
The one thing, and the thing that the men just did a little bit better was being tired climbing the ladder. They were able to sell that. The women, I think, were so excited starting the show that they were like, yeah, and then jumped all the way to the top of the ladder. Like, great, now you better win or just wait for 45 seconds. Oh no. So there were a few of those moments which were a little like, you can't. But that's me being nitpicky. I think that the bar is so high for women's Money in the Bank. They're always good. Like, they're always really good. This one absolutely hit the bar of all the good ones. I think it's because the men's one was standard that we all went, oh God, it's like it's always right. I thought Naomi had her leg blown out at that one moment where she was on the ropes and she got I don't know if you got to see replays or anything, but on TV it looked like her leg just twisted completely the wrong direction at that point. The double code reds were phenomenal. Those looked like they hurt a lot. Like, there were some really great moments in here. My group chat, even though I was doing a play at the time, that evening, my other group text that isn't BC WrestlePod was filled with Stephanie Vaquer gifts, because the gentleman on that side of the chat had never seen her before. So that was their baptism by fire.
They all were possessed by the spirit of Booker T for a couple of seconds.
Yep, they went full Booker T. They had no chance. I thought this was fun. I'm a little bummed my pick was wrong, but I'm happy for Naomi. I'm glad that she's getting the push. She's going to be a great heel Money in the Bank, which we kind of need right now, right? Which makes total sense.
Right.
I agree with you. It started those first 5-7 minutes flying out the gate. And then I think they realized, okay, hey, we still got 12 more minutes. We got to gear shift this away.
Seriously.
But
I was just like, okay, and we're waiting. I still had a great time, but yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to jump. Naomi going to win it. She won it so effortlessly. And I think the drone, I know you were live and in person. The drone shot kind of killed it, because you went, oh, this is the end. It was staring
at Stephanie for like the whole entire time, just chilling there, which sucks. I was like, don't show Stephanie just chilling there.
Yeah. And like all of a sudden Naomi starts to climb the ladder. The drone flies in and you're like, oh, I know this is the end because the drone is here. Damn it. And that's unfortunate.
It really is. And by process of elimination too, in my head, when we made these picks, I was like, Stephanie, Julia, and Roxanne, I felt like weren't going to win because this is their first women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So I figured they're not. But shout out to Stephanie too, who pulled triple duty because she had a match on SmackDown. Then she was at Worlds Collide like hours before Money in the Bank wrestling in a match. And now she was in here wrestling in a match. So I love you, Stephanie. You are fantastic.
Rhea, I had Alexa Bliss and someone else. I can't remember who I had, but I really thought Alexa Bliss had a shot.
My 2 choices were Alexa and Naomi. Between the 2, I figured Rhea didn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase because she's already been champion for the past year. And plus, people on the internet love to for some reason, love to see successful women be brought down a peg, and started comparing her to being booked like Hogan. And I'm like, not again. Stop with the Hogan comparisons. First it was Becky. Now it is Rhea. Y'all got to figure something out. Book her like China, where she fights the men too. Then I'm interested in that.
There you go. Yeah.
But ultimately, it came down for me between Alexa and Naomi. And personally, I feel like Naomi's character needed the Money in the Bank briefcase more, only because in terms like you have a really great story you could tell. There's still unfinished business with Bianca and Jade and all that stuff. So that I'm more excited about. We'll talk about the men's and how I'm not as excited about where we're going with that winner, but we'll get there when we get there.
Kind of bummed about that. Anyway.
But overall, I gave the women's Money in the Bank ladder match a solid B. Even with the waiting around, I think everyone did great. Funny enough, I feel like my MVP was Roxanne. She was running and fighting everybody. Same thing with Julia. I think those two are probably my MVPs this match because they did all the heavy lifting. Also, Rhea Ripley being buried under ladders for 10 minutes was kind of fun to watch.
I think they should have buried her more. They didn't do nearly enough. I've seen the Terminator. You have to pile on. You can't just throw a few ladders and think that's going to stop her. No, I thought this was a super fun way to start. I thought it was great. I love seeing Roxanne on my TV. I love seeing Stephanie there killing it, doing 3 matches in 24 hours. Her legend just grows. I think this was great. I have my problems with WWE and TKO, but this does make me want to watch the women's division, and I hope they pump it better than they have been, or if there's rumors are true and who's coming in and who's going out and what they're trying to do, I really hope it works. But we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it as we continue along too. But solid B, I enjoyed this match. So we go on to our second match, which was literally added hours ago. Before
just because
happened.
Just because.
So okay. So thankfully, because I was at both events, this match was made at Worlds Collide. So Octagon Jr. was paired up with Aerostar and the internet's newest darling from AAA and Mr. Iguana. Taking
that
on
dude looks amazing.
Yeah. We'll talk about him in a little bit because I love him too. And I'm glad that he's getting his shine, but that's besides the point. So Octagon Jr., Aerostar, and Mr. Iguana teamed up to take on the LWO and Lince Dorado in their opening bout. Octagon, Arrow, and Iguana won their match. And then what ended up happening is that after the match, Dominic and Liv were in the front row. He got on the mic, started talking mess about Octagon, about, him being a fan of his dad, Rey Mysterio, and then also talking badly about his father, Octagon Sr., which then prompted Octagon to grab Dominic, throw him into the canvas or into the wrestling area, and they started to have a full fight. And then Dominic, once they get pulled apart, Dominic gets back on the mic saying that he'll see Octagon at Money in the Bank and he'll be putting up his Intercontinental Championship. So on paper, I was like, yo, Nito, this is going to be fun. I feel like I wasted my time. This is like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, and even commentary was sort of taking a dig at it, right? They were trying to underplay it as best they could because they came out and said, that's not what a champion should do. Dominic kind of made a mistake there. He had no reason to do that. Yeah, exactly. And I get it. They're trying to push AAA. They're trying to get all that in there. A lot of folks are kind of upset, who is he to get a title shot just like that? I could see why they're doing it. That doesn't bother me. Know your demographic. You're down in LA. That's huge for the lucha fans down there and Mexican wrestling fans. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you were trying to do. There's a lot of folks trying to poo-poo on it and who already you're hearing. Ooh, I gotta be careful. I'll say this. The casual racism that's coming in as far as, that's goofy. It's not this. Why would you that? It's no. You're starting to show me who you really are.
Right. And I'll just say this here, hot take. If you look at the report cards, because I was at both events live, just because of how entertained I was, and also, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Chad Gable put on a classic at Worlds Collide against Vikingo. I gave Worlds Collide the B+ and Money in the Bank a B, only because totally for my peoples for Worlds Collide.
Sure.
But still,
yeah.
Even still, I'm just I feel like it was a very smart way. They definitely played to the demographic because it's in Inglewood / Los Angeles. So it's there we go. But even still, you had the crowd was hyped as all heck, both, Mexicanos and white people alike at Worlds Collide. And it kind of showed what happens when you let the WWE wrestlers that you don't utilize a lot to just go. Like Legado looked amazing in their match. You had Dragon Lee and Joaquin from LWO like actually get to fly. Lola Vice and Stephanie did great. Like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. But anyways, hey, you know what? Octagon Jr. got to wrestle, even though it was 4.5 minutes. But I feel that I was kind of like, again, we're going into back in the olden days when somebody else was in charge, is like adding matches to add matches. I'm like, why?
I get it, and I don't hate it. I think they wanted to really shoehorn Dom in there. I think they really wanted to get a bridge between the two promotions and folks. They wanted to give him a little bit of a commercial during Money in the Bank. It does come off, like you said, it does come off a little, yeah, what are we doing? Because neither of them really looked super strong. Does that make sense? It just kind of, here's what we can do. We'll see you next time. Like there was no...
I'm going to be so for real. I feel that, again, because the Worlds Collide already happened, but I feel that, again, I don't know who's in charge and if they were going to do stuff last minute. I feel like you could have had a repeat of your opening match at Worlds Collide. In this case, like you get some of the stars from AAA, like Mr. Iguana. Literally have that opening match happen again, or like literally put them versus Judgment Day or something. Like you can get Finn Balor on the card. You can get JD McForehead on the card. It didn't need to be for the... He doesn't have 4 head. He has a 5 head, but that's besides the point. I'm happy that Octagon Jr. got to be here because I've known about him and his dad, who's wrestling in CMLL. But even then, we literally have nothing. I was like, we could have had Karrion Kross. I'm going to be so for real. Or even AJ. Sure. Where was AJ Styles?
I don't know. They're saying there's some dissension in the ranks backstage at WWE, which of course we'll find out years from now, actually what's going on, right? We're not going to know right now, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and decisions being made or not made or whatever else. I agree. Yeah. I don't want to beat it to death. Yeah.
No. Again, good exposure for AAA, but at the same time, I'm just like, this kind of was a waste. I was like, why were we even here? Anyways, Dom retains. He is still your Intercontinental Champion. We shall see where this leads Dominic for the summer. We shall see. We move on to our third match of the evening, which was a banger, in my opinion. And I feel like the internet is very weirdly divided, which I don't understand. But we have our Women's Intercontinental Championship match. Lyra Valkyria defending her championship against Becky Lynch. To fill you in, Professor, I could summarize this feud since Backlash is these two have been fighting. Lyra cost Becky a spot in Women's Money in the Bank. And then on the go-home angle, Lyra kind of tore Becky a new one verbally, which was really nice to see, because one of our biggest complaints with Lyra is that her mic skills are kind of 50-50, but she and Becky had a great back and forth on the go-home show. But as soon as Becky opened her mouth and said that the deal is that if Lyra wins, Becky would never challenge for that Intercontinental Championship as long as Lyra is champion. But if Becky won, Lyra would have to do the one thing that she knows Lyra would hate, which is swallow her pride and raise Becky's hand as the victor towards the end of it. And as soon as I heard that, that immediately told me, okay, I'm picking Becky to win, because 9 out of 10 times when somebody says this, they are going to win. So,
and I didn't hear any of that until the match and went, oh shit. Like the same thing. It was like, oh, of course that means it's going to be, dang it. And I think Wade said that about halfway through the match. He's going to have to. I was like, oh, damn it. I think I know where this is going. I was hopeful,
right? But even after all of that, these two were great. This was a really solid match. And again, Lyra continues to prove that you may not be on her side at the beginning of the match, but she does a lot to get you onto her side by the end of it. Like when she put Becky over the barricade and did a whole entire leg drop from the barricade onto her was fantastic.
Becky's leg drops are brutal looking.
Yeah,
That little short one she does, just coming off the ropes, going straight down to the ground. Like, oh my God, that looks like it hurts a lot.
This was really solid. And again, we're probably in the minority here with this, but I feel that Becky has gotten such an unfair treatment since coming back at Mania and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, we've had our complaints about certain things happening, especially with the women's tag team division, but I feel that the hate for Becky is not warranted here.
They just want to hate Becky. There's people who want to hate Charlotte. There's people who want to hate Becky. Like that's
people. I know people have been wanting Becky to come back for so long, and then she did, and then everyone's being a hater. I
Becky
will say that
so good. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just like, Becky proves in this match that, she's been here long enough. I think she's a really good wrestler. Mm-hmm. And it's fun watching her fight against her student because Lyra and her are student-teacher dynamic. So it's like, this was fun.
Yeah. Lyra going heads up with her teacher being strong was amazing. Becky caught Lyra a few times. That one powerbomb spot off the rope, catching it. And I was like, oh, that could have been really bad. And Becky just, stays in the pocket, holds her, puts her right back down. There's another one a little bit later on near the end where I was like, oh, Becky just saved you again. But Becky's another one of those really great ring generals types where it's like, hey, call this, do this, do that, hit me, pull me here, throw me there, like never gets them phased. I think her criticisms are odd, and I'm not sure why there's so much hate for Becky. I mean, certain characters and folks is like, okay, you hate them because of blank. We all know why people don't like Charlotte. Fine. We agree on reasons for that criticism. Okay, great. Becky's still really confuses me. Like, why no likey? Okay.
I was like, y'all calm down. Yeah. Now, I would have been perplexed if she was in Money in the Bank and she wanted to be like, oh, I don't think that was the right choice, but ultimately, after going back and forth and in a quick pin, Becky does pin Lyra to become the new women's Intercontinental
really
champion.
Quick pin, like out of nowhere pin.
They're like, y'all got 1 minute, wrap this up. Let's get it together. But Becky wins after the match. Lyra is just behooved herself. Becky makes her raise her hand. Lyra reluctantly does it. Becky makes her do it across all four sides of the ring. Then she does Becky pushes the envelope and paid for it because she wanted Lyra to put the title on her. Lyra put the title on her, but then choked her out and beat her up afterwards before leaving. I was just like, that's what I needed from Lyra, which means to tell me either we get one more match between these four or Lyra moves on. But it was nice to see her not be essentially the wholesome good guy where she's not going to fight her. I would have beat Becky up too in that situation. Okay, you won the championship. You already embarrassed me enough. Now you pushed it too far. Bam.
And I don't think I've seen something like that really in a long time. That sort of traditional 70s, 80s, 90s, I'm going to disrespect you and then turn on you sort of moment. Mm-hmm. It was kind of refreshing to see that sort of archetype play out there. But we'll see where it goes. It seems like now we have a different trajectory, which is nice. I think heel Becky champion is fun. It's something to do. This is a pick that I got wrong because I didn't know what was coming.
That's very fair.
I deserve it.
Because Becky is now champion, it does make me wonder, and I'm going to watch Monday Night Raw later tonight, I should say. I think this is where we start officially setting up a Bayley versus Becky too, which actually I'm here for.
That could be fun.
It can be. So now we move on to the moment that some of our chat has been waiting for, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So now we are getting here. Again, just like the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, the prize here is the men's briefcase, which is a championship contract for a match anytime, anywhere as the cash-in. And our participants here are El Grande Americano Latte. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but the amount of ad spots in this match was wild to watch, and we'll talk about it.
The whole night.
That's very true. But this one was, to me, it was the most egregious.
If I see one more Wheatley commercial, I'm never drinking again. Like, you're killing me.
It's crazy. But we have El Grande Americano, the Seth freaking Rollins, Solo Sikoa, who was probably one of my highlights in this match, just because they allowed him to be funny. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Andrade El Idolo, my boy, always gets done dirty, but that is okay. Probably the biggest pop, but that's because of the area, is Penta. My mom is mad that she didn't get to go because I sent her a picture of Penta and she's a big fan of Penta now. So
Don't.
hopefully he will have something at Survivor Series because I want to take Mama Luguillo to Survivor Series, which is in San Diego in November. So, and then of course the hometown boy, Mr. L.A. Knight. Yeah. So again, the men's was, I enjoyed both of the ladder matches. The men's pushed it out a little bit more. Ooh, we lost the ring light, but that is okay. I like this match. I like this match a little bit more because I feel that the men didn't take as long to set up things, and everybody just went in and out. And we got a lot of this went for like 30 minutes. It was crazy to watch. But
they got a long time here. Each of them had time for spots. Nothing was rushed.
We progressed stories and things like that, which is crazy.
I like Funny Solo. I haven't seen Funny Solo before, and that
Funny Solo. This is like the NXT Solo that I fell in love with, the Street Enforcer, where he gonna talk his stuff, but then he's also hilarious. Like just riffing on everybody was so much fun to watch, but. There was a lot of crazy spots. The Mexican Destroyer, Andrade doing the Destroyer.
Andrade getting the ladder to the Huevos and then being gone for about 12 minutes and then showing back up like not throwing up was impressive.
Love to see that. The Grande Americano where Seth was holding the ladder, ran up a lead ladder to the top. LA Knight throwing Andrade off the top of that fireball ladder, which was very high.
That fireball ladder was like, and then was, I don't know, I'm trying to look at it compared to the other ladders. That thing's massive.
This was a wild match, and I loved it. And then, of course, we got to talk about the two big things that happened. Well, three big things. I'm trying to remember. El Grande Americano Latte being sent to heaven after getting speared by Braun Breaker. That was gnarly to watch. I was like, oh my God, he died.
So I had about 30, 40 seconds where I was like, oh, it's going to be Penta. Oh my God, it's going to be Penta. And then LA Knight throws Grande up the ladder. He goes from ladder to thing. And I went, oh my God, it's going to be Grande Americano. And then it changed again. That spear from Braun did not make it on the initial live shot. So you miss it at first. You're like, oh, he must have speared him. When you watch the replay of it, you're like, oh my God, Braun killed him. That was crazy. I don't know. And of course the internet's divided and everyone likes to be divided. I don't know if I like the interference here. I thought it got kind of messy and took away from the ending.
We spent 10 minutes on that whole thing. So let's talk about that brief moment because, of course, Big Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker come out to help Seth, who Paul Heyman is outside of the ring too. And Bronson and Breaker here are starting to destroy everybody in the participants. But then as they are about to gang up on Solo, we have Jacob Fatu and JC Mateo coming in to even the odds a little bit. There's a whole brawl between Seth's faction and the Timu bloodline. Then, Jacob clears the ring. He takes out Seth. He takes out Bronson. He takes out Breaker, puts Solo into the ring, helps Solo climb up, holds the leg where Solo's like, what's going on? And then I hate you and just destroy Solo Sikoa because of what happened on SmackDown. We literally had the Batista listening into Triple H talking about the thing. So it was recreating these old moments, but on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu overheard a conversation with JC and Solo, not favoring Jacob, and Jacob's like, nah, we ain't about this live. And so he destroyed Solo, left him there, which would allow Seth to climb up the ladder. And this is point number 2. Pull it down, and your 2025 men's Money in the Bank winner is Seth freaking Rollins. Not my choice. I wanted LA Knight to win because this is the third year in a row he's in here, and I was just like, okay, this is his time. We're in Los Angeles. We're finally going to give this man something, a substance to go for a world champ. Oh, okay. My only hope is LA Knight wins King of the Ring to get to that position, because if he's not, I fear that the ship has sailed to put a world championship on LA Knight, which is very sad to say.
Oh, I think you're right. I think he's going to be stuck in mid-card purgatory. I thought this was it, because usually Money in the Bank is sort of, you are here, we are now going to bump you here. Seth doesn't need the title. He doesn't need the Money in the Bank right now. They just want to, if they're just pushing heel faction Seth, sure, this does kind of give Fatu the face turn we all wanted and we've been calling for a while. Fine. Makes Penta look great in LA. Fine. Goofy solo, great. I don't mind. I mean, even Americano winning it, I still would have been like, yeah, cool, fun, push that character. I think you kind of do LA Knight dirty here. He's done everything you've ever wanted. He's got that 2-time US championship. He's sort of he's done great matches. You kind of bury him a little bit doing it like this. Is my first gut instinct. I could be talked either way, but that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, and again, Seth is not my choice. I feel that he doesn't need to, especially since Seth is already probably the title holder of the best.
And he's won it before. He's won
it before. He literally won it, and then he is immortalized in WWE history because his Money in the Bank cash in is probably the most viewed and the most talked about, which has been dubbed the heist of the century, where he cashed in and took the title at WrestleMania, which was kind of crazy. So my question is that I don't see Seth holding this thing for long. I think depending on what happens on Raw, I could see him tease or something, because we got Jay versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship tonight. So with that Money in the Bank briefcase floating around, I'm like, Seth can probably take it. Here's where I would be okay with Seth being the Money in the Bank holder. He gets the championship. He gets both championships somehow, some way, and then he unifies them like what Roman Reigns did with his match against Brock Lesnar with the WWE and the Universal Championship, and just held both of them. And this becomes the story where Seth becomes the villain that he has truly hated all along with Roman Reigns. So Seth versus Roman. Seth hated Roman. He hated everything he become. Now Seth is the villain that he hated Roman for being. And then surprisingly, Roman is the Seth Rollins in this story, which is kind of interesting. But if that's not the direction we're going, I'm just like,
that's an 18-month storyline.
Yeah, which I was just
means
like,
everyone
WWE doesn't do long term no more.
Everyone else on our screen is gonna have to sit and wait.
They're gonna be stuck in mid card. All of these guys, it's unfortunate, are gonna be stuck in mid card purgatory. LA's gonna be stuck. Andrade's always stuck there. Solo's gonna be doing something with Jacob for the United States Championship, probably.
I do think, Andrade and LA Knight are the ones that are kind of stuck here, right? Because Andrade versus Legado never really nothing ever really went with that. LA Knight and Logan Paul was a big deal a year ago. Now we're not even, feels like years ago.
LA Knight has nobody right now. I mean, but before the interference, him versus Aleister Black was kind of crazy on SmackDown, and I enjoyed it.
Sure.
Here's my thing, right? And if we go back to the Dominic Mysterio Octagon Jr. match, you know what should have been there? And I don't understand whether it's a Triple H or a TKO decision. We literally had the Wyatt Six come back like last week and attacked all the SmackDown tag team division. Why are the tag titles never on the pay-per-views?
Why are the Wyatt Six being used once every 2 months?
That's also very true. But we could have had, if you weren't going to put the titles up, you could have had like a fatal 4-way #1 contenders match to see who would face the Profits. That would have gotten Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, DIY, and the Wyatt Six on television. Like, why are these tag titles for SmackDown specifically are never defended on these pay-per-views?
Dumb.
It's stupid.
Braun also looks like he's hurt, by the way. Is he hurt? Have you heard anything about this?
Breaker?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but who knows?
He's like limp. Going off the air, he's just limping, walking around with Seth.
So hopefully nothing too crazy happens, because we're about to enter the for the no rhyme or reason summer that WWE has packed for both their main roster. At least NXT has like a pretty decent like schedule. Most of their stuff is at the Performance, like the NXT HQ in Florida, and then they have their pay-per-view in July. But WWE has main roster has too many events, in my opinion, going on throughout the summer, because we have Night of Champions and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at the end of this month. You have back-to-back. You have a whole WWE weekend during AEW's Y'all in Texas with Saturday night's main event, NXT's Great American Bash, and the Evolution pay-per-view. And then on top of that, you have Clash in Paris, and this is a loaded schedule. I'm not complaining because it keeps us WWE folks busy. But I feel like, especially during July, we could have tweaked it a little bit. Do we really need a Saturday night's main event? I'm just saying, you know. And for those of you who said that it's not counter programming, it is counter programming. They see y'all in Texas and they're going to compete. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Oh, it's absolutely counter programming. And everyone's We could talk about the other promotion quickly because you and I watch the other promotion.
And we get to review it tomorrow too.
There's a lot of if I have time to be there and I watch it. They go off on the ratings all the time. Nobody's watching. Yeah, but people are going over there from here because they don't like a lot of things. And that's probably the best thing Tony Khan has going for him over there. That other promotion is, we're not that. Yeah, I want to go where you know what I mean? So
it also helps too that at least for me, and you know this, us college professors / teachers, like we should be getting paid more than we actually do for all the things we do. So while I enjoyed Money in the Bank, I was just like, bitch, these tickets are like $400. Like this was wild.
Woof. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
And I'm just like, and those were the nosebleed sections, because the closer you got to the ring was like 4 figures. I'm like, that's a whole house payment right there.
Well,
like
WWE's in the money making business. AEW and other places are in the wrestling business,
which is nice because I paid like a fifth of the price, or I should say, Mama Willow paid a fifth of the price because me and her are going to the Ontario, California show in July, which is Dynamite 300 and Collision 100.
Yeah, man, head up into the Moreno Valley. Go watch those shows.
Seriously, we had a great time with New Japan, but I digress. So Seth is your winner. Uncertain with how we're going, but we talk about like WWE doing some questionable things, and Triple H, I'm starting to look at you with like the Rock eyebrow raised with the certain statement made at the press conference. But let's get into what main evented Money in the Bank, which was the last time is now, or at least for this paper, for the last time is now for Money in the Bank. We have a tag team match of John Cena and Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes and the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Main event, Jey Uso. Yeet. This over-delivered. It's just like, it started off slow, and then they just were starting to spam all the finishers towards the tail end of this match. I'm mad that I say this, but that moonsault into the table from Logan was crisp. And
again, and
was fun.
I say this every time, and I was actually talking backstage during my show about this match because people in the cast know that I'm on BC WrestlePod, and they were like, "So, what did you think of this?" And I went, "I hate Logan Paul. I am angry he is this good at this. Granted, he is an athlete. He was an athlete. We've talked about that at length. He has nothing but money and time to train, and he's approachable and respectable enough to learn from the people in this business. So yeah, he does really great stuff there. Does he represent everything that I think is wrong with America? Yeah, but both things can be true
at the same time.
Incredible moments in here. I got really angry at the drone moment because for the first, it lands in his hand and I go, I hate you so much. But then it turned into a really cool spot for a second, and I almost felt myself throw up. Like, oh my God, I bought into something cool you did. I hate you even more. But I have to, that was thinking out of the box, and that was fun, and I didn't hate that. John Cena, being John Cena, the age has caught up to John Cena. We've talked about this. He's much more calculated, slower in the ring. He warms up a different way. His matches are things. But he's doing these matches. Somebody else said this. I don't know what, and I agree with them. These are like, early 90s, late 80s type matches, right? Slow and playing the crowd and doing it well because he was, of course, trained by those folks. So he doesn't have to exert all his physicality and energy on it, but then he still sells better than half the roster. John Cena takes a bump like he's going to die. So it was still a great match. I thought it was a lot of fun. It made me care about something I really didn't care about. We had no reason to care about this. I watched this Saturday Night Main Event when this got booked, and I was like, but why?
You and Kilt were having a grand old time, and I was just like chiming in ever so often because, of course, I wasn't home during last Saturday night's main event because I was chaperoning teenagers in San Diego. So
the one time that we're like, let's watch something Mikey's not watching. Oh my God, it's actually good.
Well, so I will say, I will be leaving for a week, as I always do in July, to be camp counselor for a whole entire week. So, sure. But that weekend there is a Saturday night's main event, and I have scheduled a watch along, so we can watch it along.
With the camp, with the kids, like out in the woods.
No, this will be before I get to camp. This is because I have to report. I think either that Sunday or Monday. Saturday night's main event is on that Saturday, so this
get a projector, go watch it by the campfire. That'd be cool.
This will be like my last thing before Adolfo tags in for the whole entire week and becomes temporary El Jefe de Dos. So I can't wait. So
what did it feel like in the arena for this match? What was it? Were people buying it? Were people in? What was it?
Okay, so the section I was in, at least, like I had a great time in the section that I had because like conversations with other wrestling fans is very interesting too. I don't know if it's a TKO or a Triple H like blatant, and I don't want to pull a race thing, but why was Jey Uso getting beat up so much in this match? Like what, like the first 3/4 of this match, like he got barely any offense in towards the end. Then like he was getting beat up so much, like in a fighting video game, like the super meter was off the charts and he activated it to spam all the finishers and the moves. That was my first question. Did
you catch John Cena doing the early Hunter Hearst Helmsley bow and kneel in the?
Sure did. Sure did. Sure did. Then of course, we were enjoying it because then when Logan and Cena got into it, I'm like, the girls are fighting. Which I figured was going to happen. I was like, John Cena's current character has an ego. Logan Paul always has an ego. So it was going to collide, which then would allow Cody Rhodes and Jey to get, things done. Cody Rhodes getting booed was kind of surprising to me in that arena.
Really?
Yeah, it was very 50-50.
I didn't catch him getting booed.
But of course, the power of editing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear him getting booed at all. When did he get booed?
He got booed once the match started, and then everyone kind of started turning around. I mean, Cody at this point has garnered a reputation where, people were happy when he first returned. They loved him. And then once he started winning and then he became champion for that whole entire year, for some reason, when you find success, people want to become the biggest haters, but it is what it is.
Sure.
I mean, so it is what it is. But towards the tail end of the match, Cody gets knocked to the mat while, the shenanigans and distractions were happening. He hits Cody with the belt, but then we get a masked hooded figure coming in to the arena. And I was just like, okay, what is happening? Like, who's attacking John Cena? He unmasked himself, and it is no longer R-Truth, but now going by his actual government name, and Ron Killings. He's back in WWE. I kid you not, if you thought the crowd on the Peacock stream was crazy, that arena was, everybody was on their feet, hooping and hollering when it was revealed that it was Mr. Killings / R-Truth in the ring, which would allow Jey and Cody to win the match. I have some thoughts on this because I've had this conversation with two people today. One of them being Luis, aka Macho, as well, with this whole entire thing. We talked about Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and he was not a fan of this pay-per-view.
Really?
Because he said it was So I'll send you the video because he compares Money in the Bank to something a little more graphic. But what I can say without us getting demonetized is that he thought they played it safe and it was kind of boring, which I was like, I agree on the safe
Really
part.
safe. Yeah.
But
I don't know if I was bored. I do think it was kind of safe and predictable for everyone else but me now looking back because I haven't been watching very much. I would love Luis's take on some of these because he knows the history of this stuff
more than we do,
better than me, and he's like an encyclopedia of that stuff.
Absolutely.
So
let's talk about the elephant in the room too.
Go ahead.
So you never want to see people lose their job, and we already processed their feelings when R-Truth let us know that his contract was going to be expired. They didn't ask him to sign a thing, right? And then, of course, for the next week and a half, the audience hijacks the shows with the "We Want Truth" chants and the online things. And so on the one hand, it's really cool to see that when the internet doesn't want to be total nutso and crazy and just completely filthmongers, if you will. Listen, the internet's a toxic place. Like we are here. We are internet personalities, so we know.
The more I'm on Reddit, the more I remember. Anyway.
Yeah. It was really cool to see that the audience actually got, Ron to come back for however long he's back. On the other hand, though, I don't appreciate being lied to by Triple H. Listen, I don't believe anything anybody says in any, niche space out there 100% of the time. But the fact that Triple H had the audacity, the gumption, the lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch to say that, did you enjoy the show? Is all part of the plan. I'm like, no, it wasn't, Hunter. Don't you dare lie to me. The reason that Ron is back in here is because your audience hijacked the show despite you trying to edit out those chants and everything, and the internet and just the company TKO and WWE taking a hit from the fans with how much hate and backlash they were getting because of this decision. The best way I could describe it, I feel like in this current era of WWE and the TKO era, we take one step forward, but like 2.5 steps back every decision that they make.
And he's full of it because he came back as Ron Killings. He came back and now owns his name, which was always the thing, right? This is my government name. You can't trademark it. It's me now. And at 54, 55, I don't know how old Ron Killings is. He's now set. He was set before. He was going to be fine. But now he had the leverage. He sat on it. He waited. I'm saying this carefully. He's been played as a gimmick and as a joke for 20 years, even though he's been so talented, so good at what he's done. I still love Kid Quick. I still think he was cool as hell 20 plus years ago. I remember watching him before I took a break from wrestling. He's still here doing crazy good stuff. He's the only funny, legit thing you have going. You waited too long to negotiate. You blew it. Granted, I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying they could have re-signed him. All he was saying was, hey, they're not renewing my contract. That's not saying we're not going to. That's saying, hey, they're saying they're not going to. And Ron played them and he won. And I'm sure TKO went, we got to bury this quick.
Well,
Carlito tried. Carlito got out there just a little bit later than Ron, and they're not pushing it quite the same. Man.
But
I'm excited.
I think what also didn't help either too is that, of course, you had the online and the fans backlash. But again, according to various news outlets, Fightful, Cultaholic, all those guys that, I tend to follow, even Simon Miller talked about this a little bit. The fact that the locker room was actually very vocal in their own ways about not liking this decision either.
That's what Fightful said, right? Fightful went into it with unquoted sources talking all about it, right?
Publicly, and then also being told they couldn't wear R-Truth merch to support him after that announcement happened, which was crazy. Which is not crazy, but crazy to think that's happening. And the fact that Ron is back here is crazy. But I just don't like being lied to. I'm like, Triple H, I understand it's a business move. You have to play it off. But I'm like, I'm not stupid, sir. And then it comes out, Fightful said that they kept calling R-Truth, but he didn't answer the phone. He kept waiting on it. And it wasn't until Nick Khan had to step in talk to R-Truth, and Nick Khan was the one who kind of got legs to getting Ron to come back and all that good stuff. So I'm just like, just don't lie to me, you guys. We're not stupid. And then, you know, the WWE, I don't want to say marks because we're all marks at a certain point, but the WWE like only like fandom, this was like, man, we got work. This was great. I was like, this was not a work. He really got let go, and they backpedaled so hard after receiving both external and internal backlash from all sides that they kind of had to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be completely honest, I feel like the fans would have kept hijacking the show forever how long that they were going to. So, no, you WWE purists, this was not a work, and I'm mad that you think that this was a swerve. I'm like, this was not a swerve. They literally backpedaled, and this is the results of what happens when we, the consumer, voice our opinion with our pockets and our Twitter fingers, and also the locker room also being on the same page as the internet, which is kind of crazy to talk about.
What did Luis think?
So
did he think it was a work, or did he think it was a good? I didn't think so.
I love Macho to death, but he knows this. He is like he is somewhat of a WWE purist, but also he is better people's because he's a fan of Hangman Agro Page in AEW. So it's like, you can't hate Hangman, but he has his critiques with AEW and certain wrestlers, as me and you have talked about, and the AEW crew have talked about, which is fair criticisms to a certain extent. But he also says, y'all, this was not a work. Like, calm down. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, geez, Louise.
Yeah.
I was so mad. I was just like, this is why.
It's the same folks who were saying that, you know, The Rock coming back was a swerve. No, they messed it up. Like, they're playing with billions of dollars and they're trying to, come on. Yeah.
So I am happy Ron is back. I just don't appreciate being lied to, Mr. Hunter Helmsley. Like, Papa H.
I don't want to go full down the rabbit hole, and it's probably not fair to, but knowing what we know of WWE and the last 30, 40 years, and, you know, Booker T being the first champion, right? You know what I mean? In a history of people of color being held back.
Oh, don't even get me started, because Biggie kind of put WWE on blast at the post show too, by at the top of his lungs, metaphorically speaking, reminded us that Naomi is the first and only African-American woman to win, or any person of color to win Money in the Bank like that. I'm like, oh my God, you're right.
Woof. So and I'm not saying you give someone a free pass, but when people have been working for you forever, know that the fans are gonna notice. And some folk, I mean, you can call them justice warriors, you can call them whatever you want. It's just right and wrong. It was wrong what you were doing, and you got.
Like, listen, we are not dumb, y'all. We are not dumb. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Nick, was it a work, or was it a mistake?
If you can type it out in much, like, we just got done
Nick, type fast.
Yes.
There we go. He knew exactly what we were talking about too. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, we just got done talking our thoughts about the whole situation. No, don't say that.
Oh no, Nick, no.
Go back a couple of minutes, Nick, because we disagree on this.
Just went 15 minutes on how it was a mistake and not a work. Oh,
and they backpedaled, and I was lied to by Triple H, but it is what it is at this point. At the end of the day, regardless of how we got there, Ron is back, and I am super excited. Yeah. I'm super excited for Ron Killings to just be Ron Killings, and I love it.
I'm excited. This makes him one of the longest tenured WWE wrestlers ever, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, we can disagree. Oh, we'll talk about it, Nick. I'm happy to talk about it with you.
We love you too. That's okay. We don't always gotta agree.
I don't know what the numbers would be, but he's been there forever.
So I'm happy that Ron is here, interested to see where he goes. He's speaking tonight on Raw, so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, but this might be telling too.
Yeah. Well, that does take us to the end of our Money in the Bank in the review. Overall, like I said on the report card, I think this was a safe, predictable, but very fun show. I gave it a solid B. The only other big thing of importance that also got announced too. Professor, you got to call in.
I do got to call in. I got to call in. show. I do got to do that.
I'm gonna text y'all. I'll be like, hey, if anyone's available at this time, y'all call into Nick's show.
One of these days, we should all just call in succinctly.
Even on the phone, man, because half the time that's what I do. I'm running around and I get on the phone for a couple minutes to pop in.
I gotta make that happen.
We will get Professor and Adolfo and some of these other boys on here, so that way I don't gotta be the only pretty face that appears on that show.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Y'all are beautiful.
BC WrestlePod. We got the pretty faces.
We honestly do. I'm not gonna go there because we're gonna get demonetized. But anyway,
all faces, no heels.
Yes. Ayo. But the only other important thing that kind of got announced at Money in the Bank, which was the confirmation of the dates for the second year in a row, Vegas Mania. I'm really sad for New Orleans. I really am. Like, it's cool that we're doubling down on Vegas, but New Orleans there's such a different vibe. Like the things that you could have played with in terms of like the staging and design. So I feel bad for New Orleans. They're getting some things later down the line, but I was just like, I'm not excited for Vegas. Also, WWE be fucking up the spring break plans too with their dates. I'm like, damn it.
I hope they give them something real, not just like, here's a Saturday night main event or like some off the wall thing.
I'm so mad with it being the dates that they have picked. I was like, well, looks like I'm gonna be taking like 4 days off of work so I can actually do and focus on Hell Week. It was really nice this past year because it was during spring break, so I didn't got to worry with anything. But looks like I'm gonna have to taking some time off to be dealing with this. Thanks, WWE. I'm just kidding. I'm excited. We're gonna do fun stuff, but I'm mad. But yeah, so that has been our Money in the Bank review. Before we sign off, I have to do the due diligence of letting you know what else you can be expecting from us this week if the WWE is not your cup of tea. So tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, the All Elite Ensemble review will be back again tomorrow evening as we cover another exciting episode of Dynamite and Collision. This time we are covering the 4-hour Fighter Fest show from last week. So we are covering AEW Fighter Fest, which then we're going to preview Summer Blockbuster, which is this Wednesday. And then Professor has been told this, but tomorrow evening I am putting him, JVL, El Buntador del Segundo, and Papo Oso into the same group chat because we got to start planning for this Grand Slam Mexico Worlds Collide review thing that we got going on.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we got to figure that out.
Which we will. Nobody's getting out of it, and if you do not show up, you will be facing punishment.
What are the dates? We got time for that. What are the dates?
We will talk offline, but that's
we'll talk in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk in a little minute. But speaking of Worlds Colliding on Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, the NXT Losos crew will be pulling double duty as not only will we be covering Worlds Collide with La Nextrema, but we will also be touching on the NXT episode from tomorrow evening, which is fantastic. Cannot wait for all of that. But if that is not your speed, then at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, Los Lobos de la Lucha got you covered with all the CMLL goodness, which is fantastic. But are you wanting a little bit to something more wild, bloody, and crazy? Well, stop by Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, as the Ultraviolet Union of myself, Andrew, and our newest member, Adolfo, will be doing a double review of GCW Survival Weekend, which includes Tournament of Survival 10 and Cage of Survival 4. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun one.
I want to review that.
Listen, if you can find time to at least get through most of this, even if it's on double speed, Professor, the links are in the chat. You can pop in and I will text you to confirm.
Wait, Monday 6/12? That's not right. Today's Monday, June 9th.
When I did this, I forgot to change the date on some of these, but it's this Thursday, I promise you. Listen, It has been a crazy week.
No, you're fine. I have a show that night. I could probably drop in before the show. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah, so Thursday. Then on Friday, again, Friday the 13th, this one is corrected. But the Six-Sided Scholars will be here, which is the TNA PLE review squad of myself, Will, our newest member, JT, and possibly we have our fourth member who's going to be on a trial run for the next couple of weeks. And we're throwing him into the whole entire thing by having him review a pay-per-view with us.
Hundreds of us.
It's crazy. We multiply. But we will be covering the Against All Odds pay-per-view for TNA that was this past weekend. Then on Saturday, it is not going to be a live review. It's going to be an edited review. But I'm deciding, because of just being hit with the creative bug and because of, the way that the world is happening right now, especially here on the West Coast, on Saturday, there will be an edited bite-sized premiere review of Mike Santana Presents the Puerto Rican Weekend, which saw Mike Santana defend the House of Glory World Championship against Tomohiro Ishii. So I'm covering this because I am half Puerto Rican, and I think it's important to spotlight these kinds of events, especially when we are celebrating, POC culture and all of that. So again, it's going to be edited.
I want to watch that.
Bro, it's on Triller. Like, if you pay every month, you get it. You got the show for free. If I paid the $7.99 a month.
I forget about Triller. I mean, I don't forget about it. I see the bill, but I gotta go. Okay, I'll go look at that.
House of Glory, Progress, Defy, all the stuff we cover is pretty much on Triller TV, GCW. Like, it's crazy. But then we wrap things up on Sunday with our WWE review. We are back to the normal review schedule of Raw and SmackDown. We are going to be covering the post Money in the Bank Raws and SmackDown from this past week. So this is going to be a fun one for sure. I also will say I did not have the graphic because I forgot to put it on the computer, but we are also continuing our predictions league. Minnie and I are tied in first place after 2 pay-per-views. Kilt and the Professor are tied for second or third, whatever you want to call it. But hey, you know what? The summer's going to be busy for the main roster crew because even though we won't be doing official review because, of our stances of moral grounding against any of the shows in Saudi Arabia, but we will at least do predictions for Night of Champions. We will also be doing predictions for all the other summer pay-per-views that are happening. Evolution will count as a predictions thing, and then Clash in Paris, and SummerSlam is going to be crazy. So, but that is going to be it for us here at Wrestle Watch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Me and Professor got to talk about some stuff in a little bit, and we also got to get up on out of here. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. We got a week worth of fun stuff, so come and stop by and say hi, whether it be in the live reviews or in the social medias. We love y'all. So from all of us here at BC WrestlePod, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic. More importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. So we will catch you later, but until then, sayonara, adios, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there in these trying times, and remember, take the time to love yourself because we love you, and that's all that matters. So until then, this is BC WrestlePod signing off for the evening. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.